Hello, I'm Anthony Ehresmann, and this is Urbana Leader. On this program, we're going to meet two people who have done what few have, get a bill passed in Ohio, the Money-Burge Act, or the Next of Kin Database Act, as it's also known. We have with us two people who were key to getting this bill passed, Carmela and Sergeant Hickey, who will join us later. Since Governor Strickland signed the bill into law, Ohioans now can go online with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles database and place their next of kin contact information for use in case of emergency. Let's welcome Carmela onto the program. Thanks for coming on. How do you pronounce your last name?
Wiant.
Wiant?
Wiant, yes.
I tried it like 5 different ways, and none of them sounded right. So you have joined a very, very small group of people, all right? Kind of like, the Club of Living Presidents. Very small group of people who actually were able to get a bill passed on something that meant a great deal to them. And I want you to tell us, how did this come about? What happened that made you want to go and do this?
My son was killed in an automobile accident on August 7th, 2006. And the way I found out was his girlfriend had called me and told me that David was in an accident. But she didn't know anything. And she told me that I was to call this number. So I called this number, said it was disconnected. I thought, well, maybe it's my phone. I used my cell phone. It still said it was disconnected. So in turn, I called the sheriff department, and I said I was just told David Money was in an accident, and she goes, yes, he was. And I said, do you know where they took him? And so she told me what hospital, gave me the telephone number, and so I called the hospital, and all I asked was if David Money was at this hospital. And they said yes, he was, and gave me to somebody else. And I asked if
it was a chaplain.
It was a chaplain hospital, is what I found out later. And he ended up telling me that David was dead over the phone.
How old was David?
He was 23.
Wow, he was so young.
And would have been 24 3 days later.
Oh my gosh.
Very young. Too young.
Yeah.
Too young. And I just, I called him back, and I said, how dare you tell somebody like this over the telephone? And I said, you didn't even know who I was. And he goes, well, I assumed you were his mom. And I said, I will be there in 40 minutes to identify him. He told me that I didn't have to, that the sheriff had already done it. And never being in something like this, I think he's telling me the truth, so I had no idea. The sheriff is not allowed to identify them unless they know them personally. And
so not even by their driver's license? Or
no, they cannot. The only people that can identify him is the family. And so I said, okay, whatever. I said, I'm picking up his girlfriend. We will be there in an hour. And then he went into total detail of what David looked like and said, ma'am, you don't want to come in yet. And what he took away from me, I can never, ever, ever get back.
Now, how much time was there from the time there was an accident, he went to the hospital, and your telephone conversation? How long was that?
His accident happened at 3:10, and his girlfriend called me somewhere between 20 till 5 or 10 till 5, somewhere in that area.
So he was in the hospital for a few hours?
About an hour and a half, yes.
In time for you to go see him?
Yes.
And
Yes.
possibly be there?
Yes. Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why this, that in fact, I went on the website as soon as I heard your story. I went on the website and I signed up.
Thank you.
And I understand there's 40,000 people down. Plus.
I called today, and there is 62,667 people.
So that's
signed up.
20,000 more people just in the week since I spoke to you last.
Yes.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And hopefully this won't happen again. What really struck me about your story was, here, I mean, you don't live that far away. I mean, you could have been there in 35 minutes.
Correct.
And you could have been with your son.
Yes.
But because they didn't know who to call, this is what we have.
Correct.
That is, I don't, and it was a chaplain too,
Yes.
which also struck me very odd.
That blows my mind. A chaplain is supposed to know not
How
to
to
do
deal,
this.
how to deal with these kind of situations.
Carmela, come in. As soon as you get here, we will take you to David. That's all he would have had to have said to me.
Now, how much time was there between the accident and the time his girlfriend called? And how did they know to call his girlfriend? Was she with him at the time?
No, she was not with him. They had called his boss, and instead of the boss doing what he was supposed to have done, my son and his girlfriend's sister, or his girlfriend's brother, worked together. And they called brother.
Now, his work probably had next of kin emergency contact information, so
Yes.
why didn't they call you?
I don't know. And he even had my telephone number. So his boss knew my telephone number that he could have given to Sergeant
So
Hickey.
you were one of the contact people on
Yeah.
one of David's contact people.
I'm sure
I
I
know my
was.
mother is. So.
Right, I'm sure I was. I can't
that's-
say that for sure, but
That's Son 101.
right,
That's what we do.
right.
So there's another flaw in the way things are supposed to go down, because if his work was to notify somebody, they should have done that, and they should have done it like that.
Correct.
That's just amazing. Now, and after I read the bill, I saw that. I said, "Wow, this is going to make things really a lot easier, because you're going to know as soon as something happens. They're going to know from the time their accident, they're care flighting him to here. They're
Yes.
transporting by ambulance to here. This is a serious situation. Maybe they can even tell you, look, he's got a couple of cuts. We're just taking him in to check him out. Everything looks okay. So that they can calm somebody down. But if it's a dire emergency, and they release it, talk about right as soon as it's possible. You get the next of kin in there, because there's decisions that need to be made. If it's a bad thing that's happened, decisions need to be made. Papers need to be signed. Insurance needs to be filled out. And then there's the number one reason. So that they know that they have somebody from their family with them. So, come on. What happened after this? How do we get to the bill part? How do we get to you deciding to write a bill or to sponsor a bill? Whatever it is.
I had been talking with Senator Faber's office the whole time.
Nice guy.
Yes, he is. Trying to figure out what we could do with the hospital, because that was my main concern. Nobody deserves to be told that way. Nobody needs to be told over the telephone. And the legislators, Congress, nobody can deal with the hospitals. So a couple months later, I spoke with Sergeant Hickey, and we had a very long conversation. And I asked him, I said, okay, what is the first thing you do when you come to a fatal crash?
Hang on. Who is Sergeant Hickey?
He was a